Hello YouTube. I just came across a problem with my three UPSs, and after a long time of research going through forums, I think if I finally found the issue and have resolved them, and I wanted to share this video because I couldn't really find anything online about this particular subject. Of course, there might be one randomly somewhere that I didn't happen to come across, but you get the idea. So, the UPSs I'm talking about are the XS/RS series of UPSs, 1500, 1000, whatever it is. And basically, XS, RS, if it looks like this, if it looks like this beige thing, then those are the ones that I'm talking about. Now, if you want the specific model number, I am talking about the BX1000 or the BX1500, yada yada yada. Alright, so what problem am I exactly talking about? Well, basically, if you have any sort of weird behavior with your UPS, generally it means your batteries are dead. However, if you ever come across the problem where replacing the batteries don't fix the issue, then this kind of might be the video for you. So basically, I'll provide a number of symptoms, and if these symptoms match, then I can show you what I've done to go and fix the problem. So what it will kind of start off as initially is your UPS, you'll start to notice that it won't accept the wall power even though it's perfectly fine. It'll just run down the batteries all the way to zero because it refuses to use the wall power and charge the batteries and, act normally. And what you can kind of remedy initially is you can lower the sensitivity. So if you kind of just press and hold, you can do this in the PowerShoot software too. But if you don't have that, if you press and hold it, you see the 3 blinking lights? That means it's on high sensitivity, so it will protect against anything it can find. And what you'll find is that, well, of course it's working now. But what you'll find is that when you press it, it'll just be on battery. It'll do the self-test on battery, and it'll just never accept the wall power, and it'll just run down the UPS all the way to zero. And over time, it'll get worse and worse and worse. You'll have to put it on medium, then you have to put it on low, and then eventually, after a long time, then even low won't be enough. It'll just never ever accept the wall power. So let me see, because the bottom UPS does it a lot more. Let me see if I can recreate this issue. Here, I have to put down the camera, sorry about that. And just plug this in. Alright, let me see if we can replicate the issue. So you hear that? That's symptom number 2. Over a long time, the relay will just keep clicking back and forth. That is another symptom of what I'm talking about. Let me see if we can change the sensitivity of this one to kind of give you a different symptom. Come on. So you see this is already on low because I've used this UPS and I couldn't use it. I put it on low, and then from high, then from medium, and eventually it wasn't enough and it just stops working altogether. So I'll put this on high, maybe I can show you what I'm talking about. This is another symptom. You go and turn it on and it beeps and nothing will happen. You can press this a million times and maybe it'll turn on, maybe it won't. That is another symptom that will kind of come up of this problem that I'm about. And you press and hold it to change the sensitivity and you'll hear it just kind of beeps as some weird pattern. So let's put it back on the lowest sensitivity, which is generally not really what you want. And you see it just does that, thing again, and basically it'll just never work properly. So what is the problem behind this? When you're replacing your batteries, replacing the batteries does not work. What can you do to solve this issue? Well, what I found out over a long period of research and headache is, just like any other electronic device, well, the capacitors go bad. And originally I thought, hey, it's just the electrolytic capacitors that go bad. But in this case, that is actually not the case. So which capacitors are the ones that go bad? That affect specifically what it seems like is the voltage recognition circuit. Because another thing you'll notice is if you have this power chute software, sometimes it'll read 90 volts even though the power is actually just fine. And by the way, this is the sensitivity setting I'm talking about with that UPS. So it seems to do with the power or the voltage recognition circuit, because it sometimes the UPS can still function on battery just fine, and that's what it will do. It'll think the power is low or bad, it'll never use it, and then eventually, if you wait a long time and it gets really bad, you'll get what's happening to this bottom one, and it'll just basically act crazy, for lack of a better term. Well, the capacitors I am talking about are, and I'll get a high resolution photo and I'll kind of circle it in like MS Paint or some shit. But if you can see, these four right here, 22 nanofarad, 16 volts, 22 nanofarad, 16 volts, 22 nanofarad, 16 volts, 22 nanofarad, I don't believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, 16 volts. This is 10 nanofarads, 30 volts? Yeah, 30 volts. And then there's also one of the 10 nanofarad ones all the way somewhere over there. I'll show you a picture, and I'll high resolution picture, and I'll circle them. But these are all the ones that I've replaced to go and get them working. So I'm gonna kind of show you real quick. These right here are the new ones that I got off of Mauser Electronics. They're pretty cheap. These are Panasonic ones. You won't be able to find those exact ones anymore, but I'll leave a link to these exact ones that you will need to get it to work again. But basically, after a lot of soldering, you can see it works perfectly fine. It is not going crazy, and I'll show you that it's on the high sensitivity, not the low sensitivity, because, well, I'll have to wait for it. Come on, pass the self-test, please. There we go. And these batteries are old, crappy batteries. You see, let's see if I can just show you. They're Mighty Max battery, bro. Who has ever heard of that brand? But these are actually bad batteries. These came from this UPS. It complained about it, and I can show you a screenshot of it complaining. But these are bad batteries, and this thing is working perfectly fine. So let's turn this off, and I will show you. And you can see it's not beeping like a lot, even though I'm holding it down. I can show you this is on high sensitivity. You see the 3 lights are blinking, so it is in fact on high sensitivity. And I'll unplug it from the wall too, so you can see that it actually accepts the wall power. See the fan spins. This is a 1500 volt amp. There we go. So I'll kind of just, give me a second, unplug it here. There we go. It works perfectly. It is all repaired, and these capacitors cost cents, literal cents, and there is no need to go and buy a brand new UPS. Now, I did get a brand new UPS, as you can see. There's also one over there. The newest UPSs, the Back-UPS Pros, do have a pure sine wave output compared to these, which only have a stepped sine wave output. And the brand new UPS have AVR boost and trim. I believe these only have AVR trim, but not boost. So, you know, new ones obviously have their benefits, but there is one benefit that the new ones severely lack, and it's the expansion. The expansion port on the 1500s. The 1000s don't have these. Basically, you can have 4 of these instead of just 2 of these and it doubles your runtime. So what originally happened is there was another kind of enclosure that would kind of made it neat and tidy, but it's impossible to find. But these connections are the exact same as that one, so you can just buy another one of these replacement units and then just plug it in, and you know, you can, it doesn't have to be in that neat and tidy enclosure. You can just kind of have it like this, sitting somewhere. It's actually not that dangerous. But the double the runtime is the one thing that I really like about these without having to have a smart APS. And a warning to you guys, these are surface mount components. They're not all the way through. So you need a really fine tip soldering iron, because what you're going to be doing is, oh, and I probably just messed it up. Yep, there you go. I shorted a component. I forgot it was on. But you can, I'll show you in the screenshot. The tiny little silver pad is what you have to go and get at, and it is a pain in the ass. So that's kind of a little ramble on how to repair these things. Just kind of recap. What'll happen initially is it'll just stay on battery power the whole time. It'll run down to 0%. And what you'll kind of find out is putting it on the lower sensitivity from high to medium, and then eventually as time goes on the capacitor gets more bad from medium to low. It will, and then you can also increase the range in which it'll allow the voltage to be. And you know, those will be temporary solutions. Eventually the capacitors will get so low and crappy that what will happen is stuff like what this bottom one was doing, where the relay will kind of just go crazy, and it won't actually protect your equipment. And after a long enough time, they won't even turn on. They'll just kind of, you know, sit there and click it, and it'll beep, and then it'll just not turn on. So replacing the batteries doesn't do anything to fix that. So that's kind of what will happen with the bad capacitors. Supposedly only really 2 of them are the problem, but other, oh boy, I just electrocuted myself. Touching that felt kind of weird. Yeah, don't put your hands in this while it's on. Over here is exposed 120 volt circuitry. It is super, super dangerous. It can severely, severely kill you. So don't do what I just did. Always work on this thing when it is off and unplugged, and you've left it for 30 seconds and there are no batteries, because the capacitors can store a lot of energy. But anywho, I'd recommend just replacing all those capacitors that I pointed out, because, you know, if you replace one, the other one will fail, and another one will fail, and you eventually will end up replacing all of them anyway. So that's kind of how that works. I just fixed this one. I'm going to go ahead and work on these 2 and fix these 2 and put them back into service. If you have any questions, feel free to ask or put a comment, or, you know, anything along those lines, and I will see you next time.